What's up everybody and welcome back. So one of the new Congo tetra in the tank has ick. A fungal infection that looks like white spots on the fish. I noticed it just on this guy right here, but I knew I would have to treat the whole tank. His tail was in pretty bad shape too. But there was a problem. I didn't have the meds on hand to treat it. And how do you even treat a 400-gallon tank for ick? The most common med I see used is the ICX, but it would take multiple bottles for a tank this size with the smaller bottles that you usually see. None of the other fish were showing any signs of being affected, but I knew that could change at any time. I had a solution that I'll show you all soon, but I had to order on Amazon, so it'd be a few days before it got to me. So the first tip I have for you all is to have a supply of some of the medication that your fish may need on hand so that when you do need it, you don't have to go looking for it. Even with the ick starting to set in at this point, the fish was still acting pretty normally. I fed the tank and he was still eating well just like all the others. Over the next few days, I noticed his tail was in worse shape and his behavior was changing too. He was a lot more secluded than he originally was. Luckily, it wasn't much longer before I received the medication. It's still ICX, but it's the pond and large aquarium version of it. It's a full gallon of the concentrated solution and it's way more than I'll ever need, but it works out to be much cheaper than buying many of the smaller bottles that you see. ICX requires you to treat until you haven't seen any symptoms for at least 3 days, and I was ready to get the treatment started. So in went the first dose. I'm sure the fish were confused about what was going on. They always think they're about to eat something. The treatment also calls for at least 1/3 water change before each addition of the med, which I'm sure they'll appreciate. After just the second dose, the main fish that was affected was out swimming, but his tail still wasn't looking great. I'm sure the medication and all the water changes were only helping though. By the third day, I noticed another issue I'd have to address. It was probably time for me to clean out my FX6 canister filter because I noticed a good portion of the medication sitting at the bottom of the tank and not circulating like it really should. So it was probably getting clogged up. The next day before I even added in the medication, I noticed the fish we were focusing on was definitely more outgoing and social. He also had a lot less spots from the ick on his body. I still had to continue the treatment, but it was great to see that it was working. Once I no longer saw any symptoms on the fish, I kept treating them, and I actually did a little more than the 3 days that the label recommended, just to make sure everybody was nice and healthy. But by the end of the course of treatment, everybody was fine. The number one thing I should have done to prevent this from happening was quarantine the fish. Before I added them in with the rest of the fish, I could have separated them out and at least observed them for a while, just to make sure everybody looked healthy. But I got a little too eager and added them right in. But this is definitely a lesson learned, and if you enjoyed the video today, please consider subscribing. There'll be plenty more coming up in the future, and I'll see you all next time.